Hello, beautiful, beautiful you. Thanks for dropping by. I'm a little high on God right now. I just got really hammered with the spirit. Spirit just descended and I almost passed out. So please bear with me. And if that sounds strange to you, it sounds strange to me. I'm not totally used to it yet, but it's been happening for thousands of years and it's really wonderful. So someone wrote a funny just thought just came into my mind. I can't believe that after how sadistic religion makes God look, that anyone would actually believe he would actually destroy any part of himself, meaning us. So the thing is it's kind of like a closed system, right? Like mm, someone tells you something, you believe it, and then that becomes real for you. And then it's like it becomes as real as a table. Like someone's like, "Oh, people who don't believe in Jesus will, spend eternity in hell." And then if you say yes to that, then that becomes as solid as this table. Like it becomes undeniable. No one's going to deny if they're sitting at a table. No one's going to say that table doesn't exist. They might talk some fancy physics talk about how it's mostly emptiness, but once something's believed, then it becomes it's almost like it becomes as real as any object, right? And so it's like once you've stepped through that door, that's just your reality. And there's not room to question because if you question, you could in that belief system, there's the fear of hell. So, hmm. So I talked about how if someone picked up the Bible and they didn't know anything about Christianity or Judaism, they would come to two conclusions based on what's in the Bible, that all would be saved and some would be saved and some would be damned because both messages are there. And I've spoken many times about how universal reconciliation contains and explains the verses that appear to talk about eternal destruction for some. And then someone wrote me, also, the reason why it seems like there are two doctrines of salvation is because people took different writers who probably had different belief systems and put them together and try and reconcile it as one whole book saying the same thing due to what they were taught. I mean, that's really true. Once you accept, oh, the Bible's literally true, then you're forced to try and reconcile all these different things. Um, I think your theory explains part of what's going on. The other part is that tampering went on. I've shown there, you know, I was just listening to an amazing talk where the King James Bible contains the word hell about 124 times. I had to make a whole video on that. But if you go to each of those and you literally translate what's there, it only has the word hell about 12 times. And then if you look at those instances, none of them mention eternal hell. So there's been mistranslation. I would argue there's been editing. Some people wouldn't accept that. Um, and as I've said, oops, one moment. said, early Christians believed in a temporary place of chastisement, which can also, which is the other explanation for these verses that talk about punishment. It's just not eternal. So this person continues. If people could see humans wrote it, meaning wrote the Bible, that would really change a lot because most would probably realize that God gave us a better system of hearing Him in our heart because is based only on a book that we hear God, then we never got God directly, and some never even access the book. Very, very true. And that's my definition of religion is says to get to God, you must go through an external middleman. You must go through an organization, a priest or a pastor. You must go through a book. That's the essence of what religion is. In essence, religion doesn't really trust God. It doesn't trust that God can actually, as this person says, communicate with you directly in your heart. It's almost like infinite God is too weak to teach you and me directly. It's really sad. Um, then this person continues, God created an amazing system when we hear him in our hearts directly. He can use anything to reach us. It's really true. Many of us have experienced that. I have songs talking to me, coincidences, dreams. He is God and much more profound than we have ever been taught or could ever comprehend. And that would be so from really what this person's talking about is a spiritual understanding of God. And that's what I've shifted to is I've studied a lot. As I've shared, I've even studied different religions. But now I'm finally just being like, okay, okay, God, I'm listening within. What's the truth? I'm coming from that place. And that's not to say that's not without dangers, because you have to learn how to discern. Um, the history of religion is full of people hearing voices, giving them false or wrong messages that weren't necessarily the truth talking. Mm. So it's a beautiful comment, and see if there's anything else I want to say. I always put my experience before theology. Like I feel the presence of God right now. And any theology that doesn't agree with this feeling of communion and connection and the feeling of God, like I really in this moment I feel like I'm feeling God. Deep peace, purity, goodness, love, vast, infinite, caring, really cares about me. So anything that contradicts that, I just can't believe. It's not even that I don't believe it, it's I just can't anymore. So, it's interesting, we're all looking for the truth, but very rarely do human beings, explore, well, what's my process for finding truth? You know, we've got scientific method for the scientific approach to finding truth, but, like, what's our method? And I just shared mine. My method is to feel this feeling of connection to God and then examine theology, examine the writings of other people who are claiming to be in connection to God and guided by God, and see if their writings gel up with my experience. Really grateful for this channel. Really grateful for all the beautiful comments and participation we've had. And yes, religion does make God look sadistic. You know, I've talked about it so many times that, you know, someone who tortures unbelievers forever looks more like Zeus than love. You know, a very immature and cruel being. And I know there's some people on the channel who are struggling with that. They're like, well, maybe God is cruel and immature. And if you really examine scripture, if you take everything in the Bible as literal, I think you kind of have to come to that conclusion that God's kind of crazy. So I didn't come to this through the biblical route, and I know there are many people who did. And if you did, I would invite you to check out someone who I'm learning from. His name's Matt Spinks over at Firehouse Project. He has a YouTube channel, and he was a hardcore evangelical Christian and very well studied in the Bible, still is. And and the love of God, the intoxicating love of God, descended on him, and he had to rethink a few things. And God blessed him. He was willing to re-examine all those beliefs in the light of his experience. That's integrity. That's why I really respect him, because he was hardcore evangelical. And yeah. Hmm. And the other image of religion that I'm really feeling into is this idea, what does it say about God if God needs a book? Not that there's anything wrong with a book. I'm not saying throw the book out, but the way it's like if God needs a book and needs a church and needs a preacher, and as this person said, then you're not really following God. You're following other people who claim to be following God, but most of those people are following other people who claim to be following God, but most of those people are following other people. So it kind of gets a little messy. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for the beautiful, beautiful comment. And I wish you openness to the divine. Take care, angels. Big love.